We're live before we actually kick it off. And it looks like we are on both YouTube and Facebook. So let's wait a couple minutes here and then we'll get kicked off while Facebook alerts people and we share this out.
Great, sounds good.
All right, wonderful. We're going to go ahead and get kicked off and started while people are starting to hop onto this broadcast. Most of you know that I like to give the same repeat housekeeping, so bear with me while I give you the rundown. I am Juliet Abdel, and I am your president and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here again with a live broadcast. Thursdays are highlighting our nonprofits in the community around the area and those that are servicing us, especially during this time of COVID. Now, if you are a first-time newcomer to our page, I hope that you come back to us, and I want to make sure you're aware whenever we do go live in the future. The way that you can do that is by hitting the like button, but also hitting the follow alert as well. So several of you are liking the page. Make sure you hit the follow so you can get those Westminster Chambers live, drop what you're doing and watch that broadcast. Now, if you are a repeat, I appreciate you hopping back on here with us, engaging and staying informed on everything that we are bringing to you. These are valuable resources or expert speakers that are providing you content and material that you should be aware of and people in your network as well. So if during this broadcast you find a lot of this content valuable, as I know you will, make sure you hit that share button and send it out to your group of followers so that they can be just as informed and access these resources at any point in time. Now, I already love that I see a lot of you that are on here with us, so I'll start pulling up these comments. And the reason I'm pulling up these comments, of course, is to give you an idea and familiarize you with the comment section of this broadcast. If you're watching on a mobile device or even on your computer, you should have the comment section available to you at any point in time. Please use this to provide us with any comments that you might have, compliments, endearing notes. If you took something away that you didn't know from before, let us know what that was. And then more importantly, while we have our expert with us, we want to be sure that we throw them the questions that we might have. So we'll do our best to get to all the questions after the speaking portion is complete, but be sure that you are sending in those questions so that we can get to them in a timely manner. Good morning to you, Councillor Seymour. Thank you so much for hopping on here with us. And yes, it is quite shocking. It took me a second that you're on time, but you know, you're not really on time because it took me a couple of minutes today to queue it up. So technically my tardiness made you on time. You're welcome for that, and thank you for hopping on here as well. And good morning to you, Wayne Anderson. I see you tuning into our broadcast. I so appreciate you engaging with us and liking our broadcast and making them known to your networks as well. Now, at the same time that we're going live on the Facebook platform, we are also live on our YouTube channel as well. That's Westminster Chamber of Commerce, where you can find many of the videos similar to the video section of this Facebook page. And of course, our Resource Hub COVID-19 updates that date back into March. So we've been hosting these live broadcasts from March until today, and we'll continue it probably for the next several months, to be honest. We've had great traction, and you guys are providing us with feedback and comments that guide the conversation for the future. Now, today's broadcast, I had a small spoiler alert with Councillor Seymour saying that it's CASA, but today's broadcast is a nonprofit feature. We are going to be featuring our partner, CASA of Adams and Broomfield County, and I have with me Abby to share a few words about kind of her role, the organization, and then really get into how did COVID affect CASA? What did they do, how they pivoted, and then ways that we can support them, especially during this time. So at this point, Abby, I'm going to mute myself and have you take over the conversation.
Thank you so much, Juliet. And I don't know if it was Rich that really gave the spoiler. I put CASA in my name tag right there, so probably spoiled it myself. But my name is Abby Foley. I am the Outreach and Recruitment Manager for CASA of Adams and Broomfield Counties. And again, so happy to be here today, and thank you for tuning in. So as Juliet said, I'm going to give a bit of an overview of CASA, who we are, and then how COVID has affected our organization and the children we serve as well, and how you can support us during this time. So CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. We are a national organization. There are almost 1,000 programs all over the country. And here in Colorado, we are divided by jurisdiction. So there are 18 programs in Colorado, and my office serving the 17th Judicial District, which is CASA of Adams and Broomfield counties. We are a volunteer-based nonprofit and 100% funded with fundraising. So grants, sponsorships, individual donors, and such. We recruit, train, and supervise community volunteers, just like all of you, to advocate for abused and neglected children that are in the court system. We have a huge need in Adams and Broomfield counties. There are approximately 1,600 children with an open abuse and neglect case just in our two counties. And last year we served 567 of them. So while that is amazing and due to our incredible volunteer base, we have a lot of work to do. And there are a ton of kids that could really benefit from a positive adult role model and who need the advocacy. So getting into a little bit about COVID. Going back to March now, I can't believe it's been that long and we're already in October. Back in March when things started to get really bad with the pandemic, our team started working remotely. And when kids started to do remote learning and be learning from home, not in school, we saw a decrease in the amount of calls that were going to the Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline. So if you're unfamiliar, when somebody suspects abuse or neglect to a child, they will often make a call to the Department of Human Services hotline to report that. And there are several mandated reporters that have to make these calls. They are mandated by law, and some of those mandated reporters are teachers and school nurses and administrators. And so with kids at home and not as many eyes on these kids, we did see a decrease in those calls to the hotline. Beyond that, everybody's cooped up in their homes, so there aren't as many eyes on the kids and families as in normal times. COVID almost immediately affected our fundraising events. We had a golf tournament scheduled for May, just a couple months after everything started, and that did get postponed, but we were able to adapt and end up having our event, which was really exciting for us. We had a smaller event with tea times instead of shotgun starts, and we're able to still raise some money for CASA and so that we can serve more kids. We did just recently have another fundraising event back in September that also had to be much different this year than our typical few hundred guests. So we have been able to adapt and still have our events, but they are much smaller than what we're used to. As far as our advocacy, recruitment and training, this has looked totally different. Our recruitment and outreach is usually very active in the community. We do a lot of presentations for businesses, places of worship, service organizations, and those, since people haven't really been meeting in person, those have changed. We also typically are at all of the big fairs and festivals like Harvest Fest and Broomfield Days, and those haven't been happening either. So we have had to adapt and transition to virtual settings. We've been doing virtual presentations for different organizations. We have been shifting to an online presence, doing targeted recruitment campaigns on Facebook and trying to increase our internet presence. Our training has completely transitioned to a virtual setting for our volunteers. Advocates are needed now more than ever, but with families and children going through a really hard time right now with COVID. And so we have adapted to continue to offer our trainings virtually and have our volunteers recruit more volunteers. Once our volunteers are appointed to cases, their court hearings have all been happening virtually and will be for the foreseeable future. Some of our volunteers have resumed in-person visits with their kids on their case with, of course, safety precautions put in place, but a lot have remained doing virtual visits as well to maintain the safety of some of our higher risk volunteers and families. So overall, there are several different ways that community members can support us. Financial support is always appreciated. We, as I mentioned, our fundraising events, while we've been able to have them and adapt and make smaller events, they have been affected due to COVID and just because of the pandemic and everything with having to have these smaller events, those are affected. So that is always an option. Next, we are always looking to, as I mentioned, spread the word and expand our reach in the community. So virtual presentations to businesses, places of worship, any organization, we are more than happy to come and speak to talk about the volunteer role and our volunteers' impact in the community. And then lastly, we need volunteers. We are finding that now is a really good time for people to get engaged with CASA, learn more about CASA because they're more at home now. They're not out and about as much. And so now is the perfect time, if you've been thinking about it, to get more information, learn more, apply, and go through training. It is all happening virtual right now, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So it might be the right time for you or someone you know. Word of mouth is our biggest recruitment tool. So even if this isn't right for you, it might be right for somebody that you know. So we always appreciate you spreading the word and getting information out about CASA. I do have a video to share with everybody. So if Juliet, you could share that, that would be awesome.
Has it pulled up on your end?
It sure has. Okay, here we go.
Perfect.
Imagine trying to build a house, but the pieces always fall down. Friends and family in your life seem to slip and move and break. And no matter how hard you try, the ground keeps moving underneath. It hurts to hope, and there's always something that tears apart your home. You're tired of trying to hold everything up. And every time you want to put the pieces back, nothing seems to go where it's supposed to, or fit the way it did before. You tell everyone you're okay, because the make-believe makes the real home easier to believe in. Sometimes it's easy to think promises only work in fairy tales, and people don't stick around for long, so better to always see it coming. But then sometimes, just sometimes, someone comes along that understands. They know sadness can look a lot like anger, and the deepest silences are often the loudest cries for help. They know the kids that seem the toughest are fighting the hardest for themselves. They teach you no matter how many times things break, trust, hope, and love. It can be rebuilt. So you build together, and they can show you where the pieces go. It may not look like it did before, but the walls stay up now. You don't have to worry about holding everything together, because finally, the person standing up for you is never going to let go. Court-appointed special advocates bring children together with volunteers that help them find permanent, safe, and loving homes. It is our mission to give voice to all children that have been neglected or abused, and restore the promise of a better tomorrow. While CASA's programs have helped thousands of children across the nation, our work is never done. Our movement needs volunteers, partners, donors, and leaders like you, so that kids who felt abandoned can trust, can hope, can dream, and start to rebuild our lives. We can do it with builders like you. CASA in Colorado, helping you thrive, one life at a time.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that video. Our website, if you're interested in learning more or reaching out about volunteering or anything like that, you can visit our website, which is casa17th.org. That's CASA17th.org. And I'll turn it over to you, Juliet.
Thank you so much, Abby. I know a lot of people have hopped on here. I see both our board chair, Brian Dice. I also see Brian Head with us and several other people that are tuning into the broadcast. For those of you, Emilio Valdez and many others, good morning. Thank you for hopping on. We have Abby with us. She is with CASA of Adams and Broomfield County. She has given a nice overview about their organization, kind of what they generally do, and then as soon as COVID unfolded, how that impacted them in the immediate, and then how they actually pivoted during that time. She also did touch on ways that you can support them into the future. A lot of her comments I frantically tried to type into the comment section of this broadcast. So if you're hopping on here with us later on this broadcast, as I see Jennifer and several others that are tuning in right now, you can look back on those comments and get an idea on what Abby has already touched on. But if you came to us today with a question or have a thought or general comment about CASA and want us to get that answered for you, please be sure that you're typing that into the comment section, because I'll be starting to pull that right now, actually. I have a quick comment from Brian Head, just a nice good morning message our way. I just wanted to pull it up on the screen for you so you can see that, Abby. And of course, we also have another Brian, and that's Brian Dice sharing. Thank you for sharing this information with us, especially that video. That was incredibly heartfelt, and I appreciated you being able to show that for just a few minutes, a glimpse of what a child kind of experiences with the support and resources that CASA provides to them. I think that captures a lot of it in such a short amount of time. So Abby, you touched on a few things, and you know me, I love the details of everything that you can provide my way. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go over a couple of these things and see what thoughts you have my way. Very early on, we shared that a lot of these children are identified in the school system. We've got their nurses to their teachers or other administrators that may recognize some things that are going on with that child and then reach out to DHS or other services to let them know. And through that, they can kind of connect them to you. There's been that hiccup because of COVID, right? And we all moved to that quick virtual. Now we're seeing a difference with this hybrid model and approach with some school systems. In between, what have we done with kids that might have already been admitted into a program with you? Or were you still outreaching to them only virtually? What did that look like?
Great question. So backtracking a little bit, so once those reports are made to the Department of Human Services, they receive those calls and they decide next steps. And if it gets to a point where they are petitioning the court to open up a dependency and neglect case, is what it's called, that is where CASA would become involved. And a volunteer could potentially be appointed to a child's case. So in the interim, when the stay-at-home order was enacted, early on this year, all of our visits were virtual. So our volunteers were still checking in with their kids. They were just doing virtual visits. And oh my goodness, they adapted, and they adapted really quickly. It was incredible to hear the stories of how creative they got with the kids on their case, playing games over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever they were doing. Having the kids take them on a tour of their home or show them their bedroom, just to be able to see what the environment's looking like, but also still connect with the kids that they're working with. And as I mentioned, now that stay-at-home order has been lifted and things are a little more normal, some of our volunteers have resumed in-person visits with safety precautions put in place, of course, but some are still doing virtual, and it's working tremendously well. And same with our court hearings as well.
And I think that was a really smart way of doing that, having the virtual component and still seeing the child in their environment, because in a way you're still checking up on them and making sure that everything that you can at least see during that time fits or is sitting right and how the child is doing. So I think that's an amazing thing. You touched on the number that you guys are supporting, and it was upward of 570 or so, if I'm not mistaken, and the need that's there, which is around 1,500. So we're looking at a little over a third that you've been able to support, if my numbers and quick calculations are accurate, and I'm not a math expert. But that being said, how does that compare to previous years? I mean, are we seeing like a year over year percentage growth that we're able to capitalize on, or has it consistently stayed at this, which it's tremendous what you're doing. So I preface it by saying, a third of what the need is amazing that an organization is able to accomplish that in counties across Colorado, hands down. But that always raises the question, right? Because it's not 100% and everybody always wants to ask the difference.
Of course, that's a great question. So to review the numbers, you were right on target. We have approximately 1,600 children in the 17th Judicial District that have an open abuse and neglect case. And last fiscal year, which ended June 30th, we served 567 children. That is increasing. So the previous year, we served right around 500. So it is increasing. It's, we were very lucky to have a really good year last year with volunteer recruitment. And we anticipate that we will still keep increasing over the next 5 years or so. But there's always more work to do. I will say that how it works is, while we're bringing in new volunteers that are getting appointed to cases, we also have not old volunteers, but volunteers who have been with us for a while, who may have their case closed and then they take on a new case. We have a really high retention rate with our volunteers who choose to take on another case after their case closes. So it's a combination of those volunteers taking on new cases and then also our new volunteers taking on new cases to calculate that number of kids served. But we are trending in the right direction. But can always do more, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and it's nice to be conscious what we can continue to do. It's almost like a goal that's your north that you're really trying to go towards. So, and that's why I really was trying to push that you guys are doing awesome, and it's great to see. And it's great to know that you're continuing. I was going to ask about the retention of your volunteers. So I'm so glad that you shared that a lot of them are staying on and helping past that. Are you seeing, what is the main, obstacle for people to want to volunteer? Are we thinking that it's more of there's not an awareness around the work that our CASA chapters are doing? Is it more of, it's a time consuming thought that they think, and in reality it might not be as time consuming as they believe? Or what are some of those objections, as I'm sure you've looked into that, so you can try and go out there and make sure that those are answered to the fullest?
Great. You have great questions, Juliet. But I definitely hear two things the most of the time. The first one is the time commitment. People feel like they don't have enough time. And I just want to say that is probably not true. Most of our volunteers, the majority, are working full time. They have things going on in their lives. They have outside commitments. They might have children at home, families. What's different about this role is it really is quite flexible. Although it's more involved than your traditional in and out sort of volunteer opportunity, you get to plan your visits with the kids on your case. So you get to decide when those happen. I am a volunteer with CASA in addition to working there. So right now my schedule is flexible, but prior to this, I was working at a school and I had a very strict schedule. So I would do my visits on the weekend when I had availability to be able to do them. Court hearings happen every 60 to 90 days. You do know about those 60 to 90 days in advance, which is really nice to be able to plan ahead. And overall, we say it's about 10 to 15 hours a month for volunteers spending on their case between visits, court, meetings with the other professionals, the caseworker, attorneys, and any other way that you are allocating your time on the case. But that does vary month to month. And then the second thing that I hear a lot is people feel as though they will get too emotionally attached or invested. And what I have to say to that is that's normal. This role attracts people that are empathetic, that are compassionate, and that want to help children. And so it's normal to feel emotions and feel upset and feel any type of way. And we have so much support from our team. Our volunteers are assigned a supervisor from our staff to support them along the way, answer questions, and kind of be a sounding board for them. We also like to be transparent that this is a challenging volunteer opportunity. It is definitely not sunshine and roses. But I also believe it's not all sad. It can be really fun, and it can be really enjoyable. You are somebody that can come in and let these kids be kids. You can take them to the park. You can play games together, do an art project. You can let them have that time to enjoy their childhood. And then lastly, what's special about CASA is you don't have to end the relationship with the kids on your case right when the case closes. You can maintain contact even after the case closes, which is really, really special and something that people don't always think is what will happen.
And I think that's terrific. You hit the nail on the head when you said the types of people that you're attracting. And it's those natural carers, those nurturers that want to support. And so they are more apt to develop that relationship and feel like, when they come to an end, what's next. So it's really nice to know that they can still check in on the child and make sure that they're fine even after that time's passed. I see Jason Ganal that's on here. Good morning to you. Thank you for hopping on. And it looks like Counselor Seymour wanted to give a plug in. There's a 710 Rotary and CASA 17th roast of Frank DeAngelis, if I'm not mistaken, on April the 9th of 2021. So it's a little bit out, but hopefully everybody can schedule that on their calendar and make sure that we plan for it, and that we'll be in a different position than when we are today. And you touched on some really great points about sharing. It's almost as busy as your schedule will allow. And we have a few volunteers I know from our organization that support you all. Just a quick shout out to Counselor Smith, who's actually a member of our chamber, worked in RTD, and also was plugged in while she was running running for her campaign and kind of holding office. And then we have a past ambassador of mine at the same time was also with Kiwanis, was with you all, was pregnant and starting her new career into real estate. So these are dedicated volunteers that it's not about prioritizing what's on your schedule, but scheduling your priorities. And for them, it was definitely one of those. So it's nice to see that you're attracting such a diverse type of volunteer base for you and your efforts. So believe it or not, Abby, like I could keep asking you questions and they just keep popping in my head because I know that you guys are doing so much and I just want to get the word out as much as I can, but we're at our 30-minute mark. So I will have to close out, unfortunately, but I want to thank everybody that's hopped on here with us. We have Abby from Casa, Adams, and Broomfield counties. She has shared a wealth of information about their organization, what they do, how they operate, especially with COVID, and how you can continue to support them during this time and into the future. Abby has also provided their website, which I've dropped into the comment section of this broadcast. You are encouraged to connect with them on their website or their social media platforms that they've been leveraging heavily during this time of COVID. Of course, if you watched this and you've gained some information or you thought of that person that you know has that heart or the desire to really make some change in someone's life, especially someone who's still growing and is absorbing everything that's around them, please be sure that you're sharing this out to your network so that person and anyone else of a similar mindset that might be interested in supporting the work that Casa does, obviously outside of monetary, this is volunteering and providing your time. Please consider sharing that out to them. If you end up watching this broadcast or you hopped on later into this video viewing and you came in the last minute or two, this video is available to you at any point in time to rewind and rewatch. And if you do rewatch it, we always love to know that you did. You can give me a hashtag replay and I'll see that you actually tuned into the broadcast. If you think of a comment or question that you didn't get a chance to ask Abby, we want to address that for you. So you can type that into the comment section at any point and we'll get that answered. Or you can DM it if you don't feel like you want others to see what that question is or not as comfortable asking it out to the public. We're happy to get that plugged in for you later on. Of course, I appreciate you guys spending your morning with us. And Abby, I appreciate you. I know that you guys have so much that's going on as you're transitioning, being a nonprofit, using your lean resources as they are, and making sure that you service the over 500 kids that you have in your network and the future ones that are coming online. So don't go away. As soon as I close out, I want to let everybody know we'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. And tomorrow's broadcast, we will have ADCO's so we had Jeff Coe's county clerk and recorder visit about elections from the Jefferson County side. This time it's going to be Adams County. So you'll want to tune in and hear some information as it relates to voting, as it relates to elections. Bring your comments and questions with us as we like to engage with you. Abby, I wish you a terrific rest of your Thursday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.